This is Understand the Times, a radio program dedicated to equipping the church with biblical insights for contemporary issues. As an author and lecturer, Roger Oakland speaks internationally on a wide variety of topics. Roger helps us understand and analyze past events, today's headlines, and even things yet to take place. Now, to help us understand the times, here's Roger.
Welcome to Understand the Times in the News, today's edition. We continue to examine our weekly news events as we go through the year, Bible prophecy, as we see things happening in light of the scriptures, and as we post these various items to our website, we like to come back and make comments on some of the important items, and so that's what we'll be doing today. Going back and looking at some news items beginning in November, and our first item is dated November the 17th to 16, and the title is Transhuman Dreaming, DNA Editing Breakthrough Could Delay Aging and Cure Diseases. From the article, the breakthrough described as a holy grail of genetics was used to partially restore the sight of rats blinded by a condition which also affects humans. Previously, researchers were not able to make changes to DNA in eye, brain, heart, and liver tissues. But the new technique allows them to do this for the first time and could also lead to new treatments for a range of diseases associated with the aging process. One of the researchers, Professor Juan Carlos Belmonte, said, "We were very excited by the technology we discovered because it is something that could not be done before. The possible applications of the discovery are vast. The cells in most of the tissues of an adult body do not divide, making it harder for scientists to introduce changes to the DNA. But Professor Belmonte of the Salk Institute in the U.S. said, for the first time, we can enter into cells that do not divide and modify the DNA at will. We now have a technology that allows us to modify the DNA of non-dividing cells to fix broken genes in the brain, heart, and liver. It allows us, for the first time, to be able to dream of curing diseases that we couldn't before, which is exciting." Professor Robert McLaren of Oxford University described the research as a significant advance. Researchers are now using this mechanism to correct gene defects. Clinical trials are a long way off because the CRISPR proteins may cut DNA at other sites that may have untoward effects, he said in this very important statement. Nevertheless, since aging is defined as picking up DNA mutations, the ability to correct these mutations may in future provide us with a means of extending our lifespan as well as treating many diseases that relate to aging. What an amazing article. Now, you may read this or you may hear about what scientists are doing through transhumanism, the plan to extend the human lifespan, and not think too much of it. In fact, it sounds quite reasonable. But when I read an article like this, I'm reminded of what I read in the book of Genesis, in Genesis chapter 3, when Satan appears to Eve in the Garden of Eden. And essentially it was the first lie. Genesis chapter 3, beginning in verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Indeed, as God said, you shall not eat from any tree of the garden?" And the woman said to the serpent, "From the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat from it, nor touch it, lest you die." And the serpent said to the woman, "You surely shall not die, for God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And of course, we know what happened. Eve took of the forbidden tree. She fell for Satan's lie. And as a result of disobedience to God, introduced death, The wages of sin being death, and that was passed on from generation to generation. So this so-called hope in transhumanism and advancing the human lifespan, well, maybe just a few years for the present time, will eventually, well, based on the inspiration of satanic ideas, will be so that man could live forever and forever. While science is making these great strides to modify the human body in an attempt to prolong life and defy death, the fact remains, the wages of sin is death. Transhumanism defines the effort that science is making so that humans can turn their backs on God. While this may seem to be a great breakthrough to many, it is only another sign we are in the last days. Our next article is dated November the 22nd, 2016. The title is Almost Half the World Will Be Online by the End of 2016. Poor Countries Will Lag, Report Shows. Reading from the article. By the end of 2016, almost half of the world's population will be using the internet as mobile network grows and prices fall, but their numbers will remain concentrated in the developed world. In the world's developed countries, about 80% of the population use the internet, but only about 40% in developing countries and less than 15% in less developed countries that are online, according to a report by the United Nations International Telecommunications. In several of Africa's poorer and more fragile countries, only 1 person in 10 is on the internet. The offline population is female, elderly, less educated, poor, and lives in rural areas. Now, let me add at this point, we do quite a bit of traveling in Africa, particularly the country of Kenya. And in some of the remotest areas, the poorest areas that I have ever traveled in, I find that almost every single adult has a cell phone. You will see cell towers on the tops of the highest hills, and people communicate with cell phones just like they were here in North America. So maybe poor now, maybe these poor countries are not able to set up the system in order to connect the entire world, but certainly who would have believed that it has gone as far as it has? The article continues. Globally, 47% of the world's population is online, still far short of the United Nations target of 60% by 2020. Some 3.9 billion people, more than half the world's population, are not. The ITU expects 3.5 billion people to have access by the end of the year. In 2016, people no longer go online. They are online. The spread of the 3G and 4G networks across the world has brought the internet to more and more people, the report said. Well, I cannot help but thinking as I read this article how far we've come in the area of technology and how we can connect the entire world very easily through internet telecommunications systems, which, well, didn't even exist 30 years ago. Now, I can recall being in ministry back in the late 60s and the early 70s and talking about the possibility of the world being connected through some sort of global communications network, and it was difficult for people to grasp. Not so anymore. And now we need to ask the question, so why would this be significant? Well, I think the best way to describe this is simply to turn to the Bible. In the book of Revelation, in chapter 13, it describes a time coming. I don't think it's too much longer in the future, where the entire world will be hooked up for the purpose of purchasing, buying, and selling. This will be at a time when a man will be revealed who sets himself up to control the world and the world's population. Revelation chapter 13, beginning in the 14th verse. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which was given to him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast might even speak and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand and on their forehead. And he provides that no one should be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. And then this important verse, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Of course, the famous 666. It's interesting that the number of man is 6. And this system that's being described here is part of an end times global system, a system put together by man. But it will be put together by man in order to set up a global economic system, buying and selling, which will also consist of a global religious system for the cause of peace, global economic system. This entire system will be put in place in the last days, and it requires the technology that the article we just quoted from tells us about. So who would have believed 2 to 3 decades ago how quickly the world would be connected by an electronic system that is one step away from a system that can be used for buying and selling? Only those who understand the implications of what the Bible outlines in the book of Revelation, chapter 13. The next news item, dated November the 23rd, 2016, this is taken from the IsraelNationalNews.com. And the article is titled, Trump, I Can Bring Peace to Israel. Quoting from the article, President-elect Donald Trump ran a campaign that defied convention, winning in a dramatic upset that prior to the election had been deemed unlikely, if not impossible, by most political insiders. Now he's setting his sights on a goal widely considered out of reach, once again ignoring popular opinion and suggesting he might be the one to achieve that which has eluded every president since Truman, a lasting peace between Israel and her neighbors. Continuing with the article. Speaking to the New York Times in an hour-long sit-down interview, which was published late Tuesday night, Trump shared his views on a wide range of subjects, including the prospects for a Middle East peace and the role his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, may have in crafting that peace. While Trump has long rejected America's role as a nation builder, a stark contrast from the last Republican to occupy the White House, he expressed a strong desire to help make peace in the Middle East. I would love to be able to be the one that made peace with Israel and the Palestinians, Trump said. The president-elect was confident that the goal was achievable and that he may be especially equipped to succeed, where so many others have failed. Quoting from Trump, a lot of people tell me, really great people tell me, that it's impossible, you can't do it. I disagree. I think you can make peace, said Trump, adding, I have a reason to believe I can do it. Trump also hinted that Kushner, an Orthodox Jew, may be given a special role in promoting peace in the region, saying he could be very helpful. Now, I find this article quite amazing. And let me qualify my statement so that I'm not misunderstood. In no way am I saying that Donald Trump is the Antichrist. But when I hear a man like Trump make the statements which he just made that are recorded in this article, when these statements are made by a man saying he could bring peace to the Middle East, then I pay attention. The only thing I see about a peace for Israel in the last days that we're living in is a false peace. According to the words of Paul, this false peace will be followed by a sudden destruction. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 1 to 3. Let me read. Now, as the nations and the epochs, brethren, you have no need of anything to be written to you, for you yourselves know full well that the day of the Lord will come just like a thief in the night. While they're saying peace and safety, then destruction will come upon them suddenly, like the birth pangs upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you like a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of day. We are not of night, nor of darkness. So we've been given the Word of God. And we know from the Word of God that there will be this time that will come where there will be a peace treaty that will be put in place by a peace man in order to try to resolve the problems in the Mideast. But we know that there will never be peace on planet Earth until the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, returns. So we are living in very significant days. I believe it's time to pay attention to what is happening because there are many, many signs that are underway indicating, yes, the return of Jesus Christ is at hand.
Come let us worship Him. Sing praises to our God, and we
The next article is dated December the 2nd, 2016, titled Why Famed Atheist Stephen Hawking is on the Pontifical Academy. Of course, this is in reference to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences based in Rome. This is taken from CatholicNewsAgency.com. Quoting from the article, Stephen Hawking's visit to the Vatican this week has raised curiosity, with some asking what exactly the famed astrophysicist and self-proclaimed atheist was doing in the heart of the Catholic Church. But for the Vatican, his visit was nothing out of the ordinary. Hawking is a member of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences, which includes 80 of the most brilliant scientists in the world, and he was in the Vatican City for the group's annual meeting. The year's conference was focused on science and sustainability. Hawking himself gave a talk on the origin of the universe, the topic that has earned him world renown. Religious belief, Catholic or otherwise, is not a criterion for membership in the Pontifical Academy. The group's president, Werner Arbner, and former Nobel Prize laureate in medicine, is a Protestant, and members of the Academy are Catholics, atheists, Protestants, and members of other religions. This open membership policy exists because the Pontifical Academy is conceived as a place where science and faith can meet and discuss. It's not a confessional forum, but a place where it's possible to have an open discussion and examine future scientific developments. The article continues. In a certain sense, the Academy is a bridge between science, faith, and the world. It provides that scientific knowledge does not exclude the presence of God. The Archbishop also recounted that he asked Hawking how he could maintain that God does not exist if he had reached this conclusion as a scientist or on the basis of experience of life. And he said, Hawking had to recognize that his affirmation had nothing to do with science. This is one of the many anecdotes that has risen from the Academy, giving evidence the Academy is not an enemy to science, but a place where debate on scientific progress is long both encouraged and actively promoted. Now, to be involved in an academy of a denomination that's called Christianity, and denying the existence of God, as Hawking, as an atheist, what sense does this make? Isn't this an oxymoron? And isn't Christianity based on the Bible? And doesn't the Bible begin with the book of Genesis? And doesn't the book of Genesis begin, in the beginning, God? So how could you take biblical Christianity, or Christianity that is supposed to be based on the Bible, and demolish it by these various views of various people who reject God and people of even other religions to come up with some kind of a position with regards to the origin and the history of the universe? To me, this is totally, it's an oxymoron. It doesn't make any sense. And yet the Pontifical Academy of Sciences advises the popes with regards to the position of the Catholic Church on their various views, called science, but not even based on factual, repeatable, experimental information that can be documented. These are belief systems that are conjured up in the minds of men, which I believe are inspired by satanic concepts. This article, dated December the 8th, 2016, is titled, Should Protestants Pay More Attention to Mary? And What's the Immaculate Conception Anyway? The article is taken from ChristianityToday.com. On September the 8th, it's written by someone who wrote the article for Christianity Today. I was strolling out to Westminster Cathedral, having been to Vespers. I was attending an event nearby and had decided to go into the mother church of the Catholic community of England and Wales. I hadn't realized that it was a Marian feast day, but sure enough it was. The cathedral was marking the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the celebration of Mary's birth. This meant that the hymns, prayers, and other aspects of the service had a flavor of Mary in all of them. The last few years have been some remarkable moves towards unity between different branches of Christianity. Pope Francis has not only reached out to Lutherans on the eve of the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, he's also spoken warmly to Pentecostals in an almost unprecedented move. The Archbishop of Canterbury has reached out to Eastern and Oriental Orthodox leaders, even as the strain shows between the political leaders of Russia and the West. In the USA, divisions between Protestant and Catholic, which would have considered unbridgeable a century ago, now seem much less serious. Yes, there are still big differences on doctrine, but America no longer has to ask if a Catholic can run for president. It's just assumed that it's okay. Today's feast is tricky, though I'll admit I come with all sorts of Protestant biases, but I don't quite understand the celebration or even the importance of the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception. The basic idea is that for Jesus to be perfect and sinless, Mary needed to be without original sin. As this helpful guide in the Telegraph puts it, from as early as the 6th century, Western and Eastern Christian traditions celebrated the birth of Mary, daughter of Joachim and Anna and the mother of Jesus. Over time, the date settled at 8th September. 9 calendar months before that is, of course, today, when Mary was conceived, according to Catholic doctrine, formalized in 1854 by Pope Pius IX, entirely free of original sin. That's the concept of Immaculate Conception. It was the fact, the author says, that this belief was made mandatory for Roman Catholics that separated them from other Christians, rather the belief itself. Indeed, some Orthodox believers, along with Anglo-Catholics and even Lutherans, Luther himself considered Mary to be without sin, would be of similar mind to Roman Catholics on the Immaculate Conception. And then this important statement. In our current age of ecumenical freedom, I don't want to criticize this belief or those who cleave to it. There are parts of the world where this is a national holiday and a cause of fireworks and great celebrations. Mary's clearly one of the most important people in the Bible, indeed, all of history, and Protestants have often gone too far in pushing her out of the picture. Now, as you can see, this is a typical response these days by Protestants writing about the Marian position on Roman Catholicism. But when we study some of the views on Roman Catholicism and what they believe where Mary should be placed, it's entirely not only unbiblical. Some of the claims that Catholics proclaim about Mary are just outright abominable. For example, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7, Jeremiah is pleading with his people of that day that they should not be worshiping the Queen of Heaven, which is an abomination to God. That term, Queen of Heaven, is one of the terms given to the Roman Catholic Mary. So as we read this article, I don't think you cannot help but see Jesuit speak written all over it. You see, what's going on today is a seduction of Christianity towards Rome. And most, of course, don't even know that it's happening. It's only a matter of time when Mary statues will be in Rick Warren-style churches to make those from a Catholic background feel more welcome. And then it will only be a matter of time when you'll see Protestants join with the Roman Catholic Church in a one-world global religion for the cause of peace. And then, of course, you will see Mary the center of attraction. Here's a very interesting article dated November the 23rd, 2016. Confessing your sins, ? There's an app for that, the Catholic Church, that has launched called Syndra. Quoting from the article, the grace of God is now available for download. Absolution is just a click away from the churchgoers who use the Vatican's new Syndra application, which helps users find their nearest church. The Catholic app, as it's properly called, uses GPS technology to guide penitents and lost souls alike to a nearby church, offering confession or celebrating Mass. Developed and launched by the Archbishop of St. Andrews in Edinburgh, it's believed to be the world's first confession finder. The app was launched in front of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican on Tuesday and is due to go online in early January 2017. The idea was really inspired by Holy Father himself. Edinburgh's Archbishop Leo Cushly told Vatican's Radio. He said to be imaginative about what to do for the Holy Year of Mercy. Now, I find this absolutely amazing. And another step towards something which I think is really clear if we turn to the book of Revelation. Revelation in chapter 17 tells about a coming one world religion, a spirituality that's going to unfold. I think it's here. Revelation 17, verse 1. And one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, Come here, I shall show you the judgment of the great harlot, who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed acts of immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of immorality. And he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones, and pearls, having in her hand a gold cup full of abominations and of unclean things in her immorality. And upon her forehead a name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus. When I saw her, I wondered greatly. Well, I wonder if we're seeing the unfolding of this great harlot, which is a counterfeit bride, the church being the true bride of Christ, but the counterfeit bride being the false church, the church that will set up the religion of the Antichrist. So those are some of the news items that have been in the news over the past several weeks. And we wanted to bring them to your attention, explaining to you that there are many items that are taking place right around us and how they relate to the scriptures. In the News is a program which relates to current trends in light of the scriptures. And we hope you'll join us again on our next program, which we will do perhaps in a couple more weeks. Thank you for joining us today on Understand the Times in the News.
Please visit www.understandthetimes.org for more information, to order materials, or to contact the ministry. Sign up for our free newsletter, news alerts and commentaries. You can also contact us by telephone toll-free at 1-800-689-1888. That's 1-800-689-1888.